memorable night in Florida Gator football history as Steve Spurrier won his first and only national championship as the Gator head coach amongst multiple SEC championships. And that was some night we'll never forget, and it looked just like that. And we are talking about
and
that.
That's where the national championship is this year.
It is. The LSU Tigers will likely host that game if they can beat Oklahoma. Well, they will host that game if they can beat Oklahoma.
What do you think the ticket prices would be if the Bayou Bengals are playing
it's
in that
going to
game?
be every bit as much as what the Alabama, Georgia, and the Alabama Clemson tickets were in Tampa and or in Atlanta and Tampa, respectively. I would say even maybe more so. LSU fans will flood that place. Ohio State fans or Clemson fans will also. I mean, they represent as well as any school in the country, and that is going to be quite a place. And it was last night, too, QB, as your guy, Drew Brees, became the
first of all, all our loyal
passer.
listeners around the world that watch us on Facebook Live and YouTube, they're going to realize that JC loves teams that win games. So today he has his Saints hat on because they won. Now, if the Colts would have won last night, he would have come in here with the Colts hat.
No, well, I don't have a Colts hat, but the kid the oldest son loves the Saints, and he has reason to because that's who he grew up watching was Drew Brees throw touchdown passes, and he went to Mississippi State. So obviously, or many in Mississippi love the Saints.
Well, that's the only professional team near us.
Yeah, and so the Saints are cool. Everybody can dig on the Saints, although I wish they'd quit wearing those black pants and go back to the gold ones. But the Saints last night blow out the Colts 34-7, and Drew Brees set a milestone. Added a couple of milestones.
Wait, before we get to his milestones, do you realize that Drew Brees and myself have a total of 572 touchdown passes in the National Football League?
572, and you have of that many?
I only have 31.
31. Well, you have 31 more.
How many do you have, JC?
31 more than me, and you guys did wear the same number. So that is why 9? Tell me, is there a secret to number 9, QB, or is that what you grew up with?
No, I actually grew up wearing number 11. It was a family number. My dad and his brother wore it. And all through high school, and then just kind of, they clean out the closets and they give you the old jerseys. And so when you're a young kid playing out in the yard or whatever, I was number 11.
Okay, 11.
So I worked in every sport I played until I came to Florida. Well, when you got here, what was number 11? It was retired.
Oh yeah, no.
So I had to, your freshman year they kind of give you multiple numbers, and then going into my sophomore year. I was like, I wanted number 9 because it was a unique. Nobody wore number 9 back in the day.
Yeah.
Nobody. It was always quarterbacks were like number 10, 12, 11.
12 was a big one.
7.
Yeah.
So 9 was kind of unique, and I took it. And
then the rest is history.
That's right.
But it could have easily been number 5 or 6 or whatever.
I picked number 9 because I wanted number 9.
Yeah, that's the question. Why did you pick 9?
Because it was unique. Nobody wore number 9 as a quarterback. Go back in your days growing up.
How many Gator quarterbacks wore number 5?
I wasn't really worried about Gator quarterbacks. I'm saying quarterbacks in general.
Oh.
Think about your days growing up, watching all of the teams that you love. Did anybody wear number 9?
I don't remember.
No.
I don't even remember. Well.
No. Everybody wore 12 or 10 or 7.
Okay. Yeah.
Go back to all your football cards you got laying around.
Yeah, I do have them laying around.
And look and see if there's anybody wearing number 9.
Okay.
Billy Kilmer's about the only one.
Sonny Jurgensen? No.
That's who I'm talking about. Sonny Jurgensen. Yeah, not Billy Kilmer.
Okay.
Sonny Jurgensen. That's a whole other story.
Okay. So last night you're watching that game, and you're watching him. His completion percentage was just,
Well, he set multiple records last night. Okay.
Yeah.
All-time NFL touchdown pass leader at 541.
Yes.
He had a consecutive completion in a single game for 22 straight completions was a record for him.
Yeah.
But he set the single game completion percentage for an NFL game, which is bizarre.
That is crazy.
He completed 29 of 30 passes. Let me repeat that. 29 of 30.
29, 30.
For 307 yards, 4 touchdowns.
That's hard to do in the backyard.
It's hard to do on air.
Yeah. 6,792 completions and 72,577 yards. How many miles is that?
No clue.
Yeah. And so that's a crazy night. 307 yards, 96.7% as the QB was mentioning. And, Phillip Rivers had the previous, mark to beat when he was 28 of 29 for 96% against Arizona last year. That happened last year. So in the last 2 years, we've had two separate guys throw for almost 100% in a NFL football game against an NFL defense. So
it's impressive. Very impressive.
So that win is big for the Saints and all our friends loitering around this place right now. That keeps the Saints at 11-3. They have clinched the NFC South, as you know. They are in the running with San Francisco and Seattle at 11-3 for one of the two top seeds in the NFL playoffs. And I guess the biggest advantage of that,
the Packers 11-3 too?
The Packers.
I think it's 4 teams.
Well, I'm just reading.
Oh,
you're right. There's Green Bay. I didn't see that. So the Green Bay, San Francisco, and Seattle and New Orleans are all fighting for two of the two spots that get you a home game, but maybe more importantly, a week off.
Yeah, it's important.
Although I don't know, QB. I've seen teams take a week off and come back and just crap all over themselves. You guys did one year in Chicago.
That happens all the time.
It does.
And I think the biggest thing is I think the best teams are in the NFC this year. Now, somebody in the AFC may win the Super Bowl. You know, everybody's pointing towards the Ravens or maybe Chiefs, but I think those 4 teams, and don't leave out the Minnesota Vikings. I think they're an outstanding team too. So I think the NFC is a much better conference this year.
I think you have maybe 1 or 2 teams in the AFC that are serious Super Bowl threats. Kansas City, and I know you don't like the Patriots, but I don't know how
they have no chance.
They have no chance.
No chance.
Well, Baltimore
have the Patriots beaten anybody worth a darn?
Not yet.
They haven't beat anybody with a ring record.
But when the playoffs start, it's a whole new world, and you know how winning in New England is. But Baltimore is legit for sure, as you know, their defense and their running game, and of course the potential MVP of the league. So that's going to be interesting, but that's a couple weeks away, and we still have some seedings to work out. But it looks very good that Minnesota will make the wild card as the 6 or 5, and then either Seattle or San Francisco get the 5. So yesterday I mentioned this, QB, and you can tell me what you think about the NFL. And we won't spend much time on it, but is it really good that they have a playoff system that seeds teams the way they do in the current league? This now with division winners getting automatic home games and one of the top 4 seeds would potentially could have the Dallas Cowboys or the Philadelphia Eagles at 8-8 hosting San Francisco could be 13-3. Doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. But that's just the way the league's always
Well, they should
worked.
change that.
Yeah, well, maybe you should call.
I think I'll call.
Commissioner.
I will. I think I will call and say, change this. This is absurd. Why you penalize a team just because they're in the same division as another quality team for losing a tiebreaker and having to travel to a team that may be either 7-9 or 8-8. One year Seattle was 7-9. They played the Saints at home, and Marshawn Lynch went crazy. But they don't beat the Saints in the Superdome if that game was where it should have been. But it was in Seattle that day, and it was a bad day. You guys played the Philadelphia Eagles one day, and it was an awful day for you. And that was coming off a week off, and you were there watching. I'll never forget seeing you on the ESPN TV eating Mancino's pizza, looking at me. I said, look at Shane. He's so upset. You started that game.
Yeah,
so you remember that day.
Didn't play real well.
No, it was very cold. So anyway, this is how it works in the NFL, and this is how we'll see the seeds fill out in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, so we have an action-packed show today.
Yeah, we do.
If you want to get involved, either call in or text us. It's 353-7465. Around 8:20 today, we're going to have Zach Albaverdi from the Lake City Reporter, who's big into Gator recruiting. Tomorrow is signing day for the earlier enrollees. As we mentioned,
is it
their
tomorrow
kids.
The 17th, or is it on the 18th?
It's on the 18th, which is tomorrow.
Oh, today's the 17th.
Yes, today is the 17th.
You're right.
We'll get his thoughts on, our
look,
what's going to happen with the Gators. I mean, obviously, in some.
You said yesterday 20 potentially could sign.
Yeah, he'll tell us all that, but depending on what publication you look at online or whatever, Gators are right around 6th or 7th, and I think they can move up. But we'll see what Zach has to say. Also, we'll talk a little bit later in the show about Gator basketball tonight. They have been in Brooklyn, New York?
Yeah, Brooklyn, New York,
Barclays Center, playing the Providence Friars tonight on ESPN2 at 7 o'clock. The Friars are 6-5. They're struggling a little bit.
Well, they are, but they're up there, and the Gators aren't really lighting the world on fire either. I hope that they can come out of here with a win and get to 7 wins. We have a text from one of our loyal listeners, Gene, who says, the streaming quality and audio is tremendous. You guys are technologically genius, or giants, and we are, but we're really not responsible for this other than showing up. Our man Taylor, you want me to plug your company or something? I mean, do you want any kind of DAP? Huh?
He says yes.
Okay, what's the company called? Well, I'll tell you what. We'll leave
Podcast Central, right?
We'll leave Podcast Central with Taylor Schrum can get you live and rolling online,
all over the
streaming,
world.
YouTube, Facebook Live. You can hit us up with Facebook Live and search for Pod Up with Shane Matthews, and boom, there we are. And Gene is evidence of that. We have a phone number you can also participate in and call us, just as the QB just said, at 353-7465. I didn't even have to look at that. I'm starting to memorize it. It's 353-7465, area code 352. Zach will be on shortly to talk recruiting. That's a big thing. But the bowl games are also a big thing. The Gators will not have C.J. Henderson. But, you know, in some of these bowl games, a lot of these players worry about getting hurt, obviously, for natural reasons, and they don't play. Now, a lot of times, playing in these bowl games, even though they are meaningless, can make you a lot of money. And you will remember when Jadeveon Clowney tackled a Michigan Wolverine running back, got him in the top, made him the top pick.
You think that one tackle
I think that one play woke people up to remember that this guy plays at South Carolina and is potentially a top 10 pick. And then when he picked up the ball and ran it, that made him the top pick, I think.
Yeah, I think when you look at the Gators, there's a handful of
I like Grenard playing. I like that.
Well, there's some underclassmen that could still potentially throw their name into the NFL draft this year.
Yeah.
But I think they're at the point where they haven't got back all the information that they want or need. And so the last thing you want to do, JC, is if let's just say you're an underclassman, a junior, you don't want to sit out this bowl game and then get the information and then decide I'm going to come back to school, because that kind of looks bad among your teammates. Now, your teammates understand that it's a business decision.
Sure.
So, you know, like Marco Wilson, still a potential guy that could go in the NFL draft. You saw his brother last night playing for the Colts.
Okay.
So, you know, we'll see. But right now, the only player for the Gators that is scheduled to not participate is C.J. Henderson. Now, will Zuniga play? He hasn't played in 3 or 4 games. I mean, he hasn't played much at all this year.
I gotta think it would help him.
Well, it could, but he may have kind of, quote, shut it down.
He may have, or he may have gotten some information that he believes will lead him to the decision that would enable him to be confident about where he's placed in the prospective draft. But these games can be used as auditions too. I mean, just kind of like these All-Star Senior Bowl type games, Blue Gray Classic, all that kind of stuff.
Blue Gray Classic.
The Blue Gray Classic, baby,
no
down in the
around.
Crampton Bowl in Montgomery.
That was great on Christmas
who can
Day.
forget that game?
That was great.
The East-West Shrine game.
I think they still have that, but it's not. It's like played in Tampa or somewhere.
Okay,
now.
what about the Senior Bowl in Mobile?
They do have that.
Okay.
That's the one that's important.
And you know, some of these bowl games are too. I don't think any of these Alabama players. There's only 2 Alabama players that have announced they're not playing in this game, and that's Trayvon Diggs and Terrell Lewis. Jerry Jeudy has already texted that he will play. Jerry Jeudy is a top 15 draft pick potentially in the NFL draft as a wide receiver, and has a lot to lose. But I don't know really if he has a lot to prove, but he says he's going to play. A lot of these guys probably don't want to sit around thinking, oh, my God, we lost to Auburn and Michigan in my last 2 games at Alabama. I don't want that to happen. And this game, whether it means something or doesn't, probably more so to the fans than the players, but maybe a lot to the players now that we hear some of these guys not bailing out on the game and actually wanting to play in this game. I don't blame Terrell Lewis. This is a guy with a history of injuries that has really hurt him, and he doesn't want to risk it because he knows he's going to get drafted, and he is. But QB, it's great that Florida has one guy that says, no, I can't do it, and I understand, and I don't blame him. But Grenard is the guy I was thinking that wouldn't play, and there he is. He's going to play.
Well, I think, you know.
I love Grenard. I thought he was one of the best.
He had a tremendous year.
Gosh,
there's no question about it.
He really
we don't know what the scouts have told them, and you know maybe he seems like a team type player and wants to go out and play one more game for the Florida Gators
in the orange and blue and win an Orange Bowl. I mean, this is not some little fly by night game here in Shreveport. This is the Orange Bowl in South Florida. The weather will be beautiful. The fans will show up. It's close, and it's a game that they should really have their way with. Now, we don't know if that's going to be the case, but they're double-digit favorites, or they should be, and they're playing a team that lost by 70 points in their last game or whatever it was. They didn't lose by 70, but you get the point. So Florida is sitting pretty here, and they're going to get all those extra practices. They're going to be able to show the recruits. They're going to be able to bring these kids down there, and it's going to be a big event. So this does matter. This kind of stuff does matter. Winning 11 games matters. going 21-4 in 2 years. That matters, and recruiting is going to be much better now, as we have seen already. And tomorrow we will get some validation.
It'll be 21-5.
It's 21-5.
Yeah, we lost 3 last year. 10-3 last year. Yeah. Hopefully, be 11-2.
Yeah, that's right. 10-3. So 21-5. So that's quite a move up from where this place was before Dan Mullen showed up, and as Jim McElwain was shown the door. He had a pretty good year at Central Michigan, by the way.
He did. They're going to a bowl.
They are. So they're going to. So he's doing a good job there. But at any rate, I'm happy to see that. Do we want to do as we go through this month? Not many shows during the holidays, but do we want to do like a bowl prediction kind of something? You want to do something like that?
Maybe you want to set it up?
Put the mind trust on that, the brain trust. You want me to set it? If we don't do a bowl thing, but at least we'll go through our picks, QB, so the millions of viewers out there can see you and I go head to head.
Well, we'll have to figure out which day we're going to do the bowls.
Well, yeah, we'll do that. When's Zach coming on?
Zach's coming on in about 3 minutes. Again, if you want
to take a break before that?
Yeah, in just a second. But if you have any questions about recruiting that you would like to ask Zach, you can
big moment here.
Do it on Facebook, or you can text the text line 353-7465. I know we have a text that came through a few minutes ago about Gator basketball. So we'll get to that after we speak with Zach. But yeah, let's take a quick time out here. You're listening to Pod Up with Shane Matthews. That's JC. I'm the QB. We'll be right back with Zach Albaverdi. Welcome back to Pod Up.
We are, baby.
Shane Matthews here. John Cornell live every Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 o'clock. We're back in the swamp now.
We're back in the swamp. We just left the Mercedes Superdome and transported straight to the north end zone.
Yep, we're going to have Zach Albaverdi talking Gator recruiting here in about 1 to 2 minutes. But
I got a text, QB, on the text line. This is the second one today. I'm very excited about that. The text line number, by the way, is 352-353-7465. George, Gator George, in Charlotte, North Carolina, a basketball fan, says, love the new show, guys. Gator fans are all over head coach Mike White. But how about the Carolina Tar Heels. They are 6-4, lost the other night to Wofford, and it's time to fire Roy. So I guess Gator George is defending Mike White right now and noticing that the parity in college basketball is amazing. We've had now 3 huge upsets, or what would be considered 3 huge upsets: Evansville over Kentucky, Stephen F. Austin over Duke, and now the Wofford Terriers roll into Chapel Hill and put out the Tar Heels, who are 6-4. QB,
they're not even ranked anymore. They were a top 5 team. Now they're not even ranked.
Madness. It's madness.
There's like you said, a lot of parity.
December madness.
Yes, it's great for college basketball.
It is.
I love it.
You want North Carolina and Duke and all these teams to lose so that Wofford and all these other teams that nobody cares about can win?
Well, you play 32, 35 games.
I know.
They really don't matter, but it's great for those type schools.
Yeah, no, it is for the small schools. It is, but we don't watch basketball.
Well, you know what's great is
Wofford
former Gator assistant Anthony Grant, who coached at your school, Alabama, has the Dayton Flyers. I saw they're ranked 13th in the country. They're 8-1, and their only loss was in like double overtime to Kansas, who's number 1 in the country.
What kind of odds can I get on them at the Beau Rivage in 3 days for the Final Four, you think? I bet you pretty good. And you're right, they are really turned up at Dayton. And that's good for a community like Dayton. So maybe I should be more sympathetic to how exciting it is for these smaller schools. Basketball gives you that parity, that's no doubt.
Yeah, but Gator George, he's listening in Charlotte.
That's cool. Thank you for tuning in. And really, with Facebook Live, you can do that. Also on YouTube, all you have to do is search Pod Up with Shane Matthews, and there we are every day from 8 to 9 live, and then you can pull it up anytime during the day you want to see what you missed if you weren't able to join us.
Taylor, do we have Zach on the air?
Well, Zach's going to call.
I saw that picture there.
See this thing?
Yeah, but I'm looking at the wrong screen.
Yeah, look at the right screen.
The right screen.
And then this is a phone that will go off that. So this is what happened yesterday when you were driving on assignment. We had you call in on this number. The phone rang. This is kind of like, oh, wow, there he is. And it's so easy. The technology that our man Taylor puts together here is spectacular.
So you'll hear the phone ring or vibrate or what?
Well, I turned the ringer off so it wouldn't be distracting.
Okay, well, let's put it right
turn
there.
It back on?
No.
Okay.
I'm anxious to talk some recruiting. I got some good questions for Zach.
You've prepared.
I just think this new early signing period is really fascinating to me. Let me ask you this, JC, while we're waiting on him. If you were a top-notch athlete and you were going to go play college football, would you be an earlier enrollee, or because you probably were a multiple sport kind of guy?
It's true, and
so would you want to wait and play like baseball or basketball with your teammates?
I would say if I was serious and knew that my education would be paid for if I played a certain sport, that I would want to get there as soon as possible to adapt and be a part of everything that's going on. You mentioned this player yesterday from Live Oak who is basically transferring from Georgia to Florida. Now
no, he didn't transfer from Georgia.
But
he decommitted.
Decommitted, okay. But he's already practiced. Or you're saying he's practiced and he's going to go on the bowl trip.
There's 3 of them.
So to me, that is that's basically a commitment to Florida now. He's transferred that commitment over from Georgia to Florida, and now he's involved. And why wouldn't he want to do that instead of sit around high school and go home for 2 weeks?
No, that's not what I was asking. Okay, let's just say you were the starting shortstop for your high school baseball team, and you came from a good program, and you may have wanted to try to win a championship, for your high school baseball program.
Man. That's such a tough call because, you put yourself at my age and at your age, we would be able to judge how we would feel back then when we were
I would do?
18 years old. But how would you remember? I mean, when you're 18, you think differently, right?
Yeah, but here's my thoughts. Okay, football has changed because a lot of incoming guys do play right away now. But I think I guess it determines where you see yourself fitting into the college program. Do you have a chance to play right away, or do you think you're going to be redshirted? Because I come from the school of thought that
you're ready to compete right now.
No, I'm going to go play with my high school guys to try to win a championship because you'll never get that time back.
That's true.
Okay,
I like that.
Zach is calling.
Hit
what
the
do we
green
do here?
button. Zach. Is Zach there, Taylor?
Taylor, we're having some technical difficulty.
He hit the green button to accept the call. Maybe it's a volume. Look! Oh, the magic hand comes in. Remember, folks, this is
a work in progress.
Our 5th show, so we'll have all this going a little better. But for some reason, Zach is mooted. But to bet while he works on that, yeah, I see your point that the kid would want to play. Huh?
Can we hear him now?
Zach, are you there? Zach, come in, Zach.
Testing.
Come in, Zach.
Are you there?
You guys hear me?
Zach,
we got him.
You knew we would get you, Zach.
This is Zach Alberverdi
There
joining
he
us
is.
from the
All
Lake
right.
City Reporter, talking Gator recruiting. Zach, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
We're doing well.
Fantastic.
So, Zach, real quick, we know you follow Gator recruiting and you talk to these guys. Tomorrow's early signing period. Give us a rundown of who the Gators have coming in, or if you think there are going to be any surprises where we may flip some kids.
Yes, certainly, Shane. Thanks for having me on. There's always the potential for some surprises. Dan Mullen has actually shown that he and his staff are capable of that when it comes time for closing. That they'll get some guys to flip at the very last minute. They did it with their first class. They did it with their second class. And you could see it on Wednesday. I think we have a bit of a clear picture of maybe who the Gators could get because they're really full, Shane. I mean, you look at their commitment list now, they're already up to 23 guys. So they can't really add too many more. Actually, 24 guys with the commit that they just added the other night. So they can't really add too many more spots. 27 is the max that they can sign. So they're going to be a little bit picky here about who they take. But I think you're definitely looking on the defensive line. They've really prioritized the defensive tackle position, Shane, and they've already got 4 guys committed. And then they had 2 guys in last weekend, Tim Smith and Clyde Pender. Both of them are out of the state of Florida, and both of them are committed to out-of-state schools. Tim Smith is committed to Alabama. He's a top 100 prospect out of Sebastian. He plays for Sebastian River. I mean, he's talented. 6'4", 320. Like I said, going to Bama. But Florida's put themselves in position to flip him, as well as Clyde Pender. He's from Seffner Armwood. He's committed to North Carolina. But again, I think the appeal to stay in the state of Florida, to play for the Gators, a much better program than the Tar Heels. They've got a chance to sign 6 defensive tackles, which is pretty impressive, especially when you consider the top guy on that list, Gervin Dexter. Now, Shane, let me ask you something. You've been around high school football a long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how many times have you seen a defensive tackle, regardless of class or whatever, how many times have you seen a defensive tackle make 100 tackles in a high school football season?
Yeah, never. And speaking of Gervin Dexter, he's the kid from Lake Wales, correct?
Yes, he
Yes.
has over 100 tackles this season. Shane, he's 6'7", 290 pounds, and and some of these recruiting services have him as a 4-star. It's just it's ridiculous. The guy's playing defensive tackle in the state of Florida in Class 5A. I mean, they played 13 games, so he was averaging 9 point something tackles a game. It's just unreal, the production that he's had. I mean, people talk about getting 5-star recruits. I mean, don't grant it. He's a top 100 kid. I think one of the sites have him like 30th nationally. But my thing is, I mean, you just don't see defensive tackles make 100-plus tackles in the season. So I think Florida got I'm not talking about 5-star talent. I think a top 5 talent potentially in Gervin Dexter to go along with these other defensive linemen that they could land.
Yeah, I agree. We actually, Gainesville High, my son played against Gervin last year in a playoff game, and we couldn't block him. And he's also, I've heard he's a tremendous basketball player. But, yeah, I actually saw him at practice on Saturday and was extremely impressed. Zach, when you look at this recruiting class, do you think that the Gator coaching staff they've addressed all their needs, or is there a position where you wish they would have filled a little bit more?
Oh, there's no doubt that at the running back position and wide receiver, I think to an extent, you would have liked to see the Gators do better to this point. They still don't have a running back commit, and that's not from the inability to land one. It's just when they didn't get their top guy, which was DeMarcus Bowman. They number one tried to continue to recruit him, and really to no avail. He's not going to flip from Clemson, and they rarely lose guys. So I think it's kind of taken the time to decide, okay, well, if we can't get this really dynamic runner, then who can we get to fill that void that's going to bring something along those lines? And, they've turned down some guys, but they've also put themselves in position to land some. Henry Parrish out of Miami, Florida, visited recently, just decommitted from Pitt, and it looks like Florida could be a team to beat there. You also have Gibbs out of Georgia. He's committed to Georgia Tech, but he's got big-time schools after him here late, Alabama, Ohio State, Florida. So the Gators are in the mix for him. If they can get one of those guys, I think they'll be happy about the backs that they get in this class. But with LaMichael P. Ryan leaving, maybe another guy or two transferring, you want to make sure that you get somebody in there, because you're losing a lot of talent in your backfield. And then at wide receiver, just because of the mass exodus that you're seeing with 4 seniors, maybe Grimes decides to go. So you wanted to load up there. Now, they got a really good wide receiver coming in Jaquavion Frazier. But, I think they want some other pieces to go with that. Sam Brown could be a name to watch. He's out of Georgia. He's only a 3-star kid, but in the last week, he's gotten offers from Florida, Georgia, and Ole Miss. And all 3 of those schools were trying to get him on campus this past weekend, which was the last one before the early signing period, and the Gators were able to do it. So if he decides to sign on Wednesday, he's probably going to sign with Florida. If he extends it into the final month, goes to Georgia, which is an in-state school, goes to Ole Miss, which has Lane Kiffin now, there's no telling where he could land. But so I think that's that one spot. I mean, again, if they don't land a 5-star type running back or 4 wide receivers, I don't think it's necessarily going to hurt them next season. But that's definitely 2 spots that I think they would have wanted to address better to this point.
Zach Alberverdi is joining us here on Pod Up from the Lake City Reporter. Zach, John Cornell here with you, my man. What is the status of the offensive line and the depth issues that they've had, throughout the last year or 2 years? Obviously, that was apparent in the Georgia game in some respect, in my opinion, and a lot of times during the season. Are they pulling in some O linemen?
Yeah, I tell you what, man, this is. I give Hevesy a lot of credit for what he's done in recruiting the last 2 years, because clearly they have problems on the offensive line. It was there last season, although it got better as the year went on, and then the second half of the season in 2018, they were really good, especially running the ball. They lost all those guys, and this year's unit struggled. You give Kyle Trask a ton of credit because he made that passing game go because of how quick he could get rid of that ball. And I think that eventually, though, you definitely need to get a line that is not going to ask your quarterback to have to do that in order to pass, and is also going to be able to run block so that you can have balance in your offense. And that's what they got to get with some of the linemen that he's recruited and developed. They've been working with some of the McElwain guys. So I think Hevesy. Go ahead. I
didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry. I was just going to ask you if you had any names that looks pretty good for tomorrow.
Well, I mean, obviously last year, you got an Ethan White. I think that's a name that showed up. You got Richard Garage, and then this class. I mean, they basically loaded up. Marcus Dumerville's really the only one. He's not deciding yet, but he's really the only one that they could still add. They already got basically a full class on the offensive line with 5 guys committed. And It's a really impressive group. Yeah. I mean, obviously the guy that they just picked up, I broke that news, Joshua Braun flipping from Georgia to Florida, and already being on campus going through bowl practices with the team. That was probably one of the biggest gets that Mullen has gotten since he's been here, to be honest with you. Yeah. When you're talking about his size and impact at 6'6", 335 pounds, he's a top 200 prospect. And he was going, living in Live Oak, and was going to go to Georgia, to your rival. And I think to be able to keep him home, add him to your offensive line, he's already on campus along with Richard Leonard, another lineman that they brought in, a guard out of Cocoa, Florida. Really, really good on tape. Isaiah Walker is another guy that they have committed in this class. That's a really talented lineman. So I think Hevesy has done a really good job in the last 2 classes of finding linemen that he feels like can play for him, that can take his coaching style, that can handle this offense and the responsibilities that they put on the linemen. And now he's got the numbers up, and he's got it with guys that he recruits. And he's going to be going through the season next year with 17 scholarship guys on the offensive line.
That's awesome.
And that's the numbers that you want, and I think they're going to have some competition there, which is what you want as well.
Zach, I just thought it was fascinating. I went to practice on Saturday, and there, as you mentioned, you got the two early enrollees, the offensive lineman, and Anthony Richardson, the quarterback, out there in full gear practicing for the Gators. Yeah. It just blows my mind that they get to participate in these practices. They get to go to I think they go to the bowl trip. Would they? Yeah, I mean, let's just say this game gets way out of hand. Is there any way these kids are they eligible to get in the game?
They're not, because they haven't started classes yet.
Okay. Okay.
They don't start classes. They don't start classes until January 6th. Now, what I don't know, and I think that this was brought up back when Alex Leatherwood did this, and he's the first guy that I can remember doing it. Mullen said that he had some guys do it at Mississippi State, but now, I mean, what if you're a team that's in the college football playoff and you're playing to January 8th or January 9th and you're already in class? I mean, maybe those kids would be eligible. But yeah, for these guys, because of December 30th, they can't play in the Orange Bowl. But hell, man, they get to go to the site. They get to participate in 3 bowl practices. That's huge to have those guys go through it, especially. Yeah, look, you're talking about who should be your future quarterback and who should be 2 of your future starting offensive linemen. So to have those guys go through that this early in their career, it's invaluable.
Yeah, speaking of Anthony Richardson, I think we all know what Dan Mullen wants from the quarterback position. He wants a guy that can throw it, but he also wants a guy that can really run it. And being a local kid, I've seen him play for many, many years. I think he's a perfect fit for what Dan wants done. And I think he will be able to redshirt a year. We know he's coming off a shoulder injury. I don't know how severe it was, but I think it'd be good for him to sit for a year behind Kyle Trask and Emory Jones and learn. Don't you think he is a perfect fit for this system, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to put comparisons on the kid, but he's kind of got a Cam Newton-like frame. Mm-hmm. That back where he was at in high school. Maybe he's not as big as Cam was, but man, he just, for all the things that he can do in his skill set, it's very similar to that. Now, obviously, can he get that good? I mean, Cam wasn't that good when he was here. To be honest with you, he kind of went to Auburn and blossomed. But it's clear, like you said, what type of quarterbacks that he likes. One thing I really like about Anthony is his maturity. He's not a social media guy. He's not, he's just got a good head on his shoulders, man. He's really mature for his age. He's wise beyond his years. He's the type of, I think, guy that you look for in a quarterback outside of all the things that he can do athletically. So I think you put all that together, you get him working with Dan Mullen and Brian Johnson, if he's still going to be here, hopefully. I mean, what he's done with Felipe Franks and Kyle Trask the last 2 years has been incredible. And he probably doesn't get enough credit because Dan Mullen is the head coach and he calls the plays, but Brian's done a really good job. And I think that he'll be able to mold Anthony Richardson as well. I think in a perfect world, you have Kyle play next season, move on. You have Emory start for 2 seasons. He would take over as a redshirt junior, and then and then Anthony can step in once Emory's done. And that's I think that's how Dan Mullen would probably like his quarterback depth to play out, and it then doesn't put too much pressure on Anthony where he can play 4 games next year, get a redshirt, and then the following year learn from Emory Jones as a redshirt freshman, and then be able to take over when it's his time. And I think Florida's in a really good place right now with their quarterback room.
Zach, my final question for you. Depending on which publication you look at, 24/7 has the Gators right now in recruiting the rankings at 7th, and I think Rivals has the Gators at 6th. After tomorrow, and I guess all it matters is after signing period in February, where do you think this recruiting class will be ranked?
I think it'll be a top 5 class. Where that falls in, I mean, it won't be number 1. But if they can finish 5 or better, maybe they creep up to 3 or 4, depending on who they land. That's progress. That's the type of jump that I think you want to see. I mean, Florida just yet is not at the level where they should be able to go out and beat. I mean, maybe in a year where there's just a whole bunch of in-state talent and all those guys decide to stay home, maybe they could do it.
We're gonna beat them, Zach. We're gonna beat those guys once we have that football facility. I'm a firm believer.
Yeah, well, that too, and obviously if they ever get matched up at the playoffs, Shane, and you go out and beat Clemson, or you get matched up with Alabama in the championship game and you beat them, they'll obviously eventually beat Georgia. That's going to help you, I think, catch up too. But
you gotta win.
If they finish in the top 4 or top 5, and you think about where they were with McElwain coming off of a 4-win season, the recruiting class fell apart, and he got them to, I think, 20th in the top 20. And then last year they finished in the top 10, and then on the field they finished in the top 10. Well, this year I think they could finish with a top 5 class, and I think they beat Virginia well. They'll probably finish in the top 5 in the AP. So to have 2 top 5 finishes, again, that's progress from one year to the next. And, you're putting yourself right there in terms of talent where you should be able to compete and get yourself in position for a college football playoff. And that's where you want to be. And like you said, when they get that standalone facility, if they get that, you combine that, you keep winning double-digit seasons, these recruits are going to come, man.
I agree. Awesome. Zach, appreciate it. Great stuff, my man. Where can everybody see your work?
Yeah, you can just, follow me on Twitter at Zach Albaverdi, ZACHABOLVERDI. I do a podcast, so I'll tweet that out. And every story that I do with the Lake City Report, I tweet those out as well. So, and obviously busy time of year, man, with recruiting going on.
Hey, Zach, awesome. We appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks,
have a
Zach.
good day.
All right, take care, guys.
I will be checking in with Zach as we go toward the National Signing Day in February, as well as they wrap up another great recruiting season. Let's take a quick time out, and we'll come back and wrap up today's edition of Pod Up with Shane Matthews and JC, the QB, and the QB here. It's 8:43. We've got a few more minutes left, so we'll be back in a few minutes to wrap this up. Thanks.
Welcome back to Pod Up. Shane Matthews here. John Cornell. It's JC and the QB, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. And you can see us on Facebook Live or YouTube. Have you been watching yourself on YouTube, JC?
Yeah.
Yes, the Saints won last night, so JC has a Saints hat on.
Well,
let's figure out who wins.
Damn Saints!
If the Gators win in basketball tonight, will you wear a Gator hat tomorrow?
If you want me to.
Okay. If you're interested in advertising sponsorship, opportunities are coming soon.
Okay.
Before we have a short segment here, but you know what I was thinking driving in?
No.
But I was thinking about it during the Heisman ceremony. You know, say what you want to say about Urban Meyer, tremendous football coach, right? Great recruiter.
Oh, yeah.
Great recruiter. He's probably one. He might be the best recruiter there's ever been. Saban has, but the guy has recruited 3 Heisman Trophy winners. Think about that.
Yeah.
Cam Newton,
Timmy,
and Joe Burrow.
And yeah. I mean, it's true. Although Burrow didn't play much,
but he recruited him. Cam never played for Urban.
No, that's true.
But he was on the team.
Yes. No, you're right, and it is amazing. I think it's also amazing that, as you mentioned yesterday, 3 straight transfers have won the Heisman Trophy: Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, and now, of course, Joe Burrow. And I loved hearing Joe Burrow talk to his coach.
It was great.
You watch that?
I did watch it. You know, it's the whole Heisman thing. It's interesting because, you know, you look at Urban saw the talent and had guys, you know, win Heismans. He only coached one of them, but he recruited 3 of them.
Yes.
That were on his roster. Mm-hmm. Then you look at Lincoln Riley. How fortunate has Lincoln Riley been? Right. He didn't recruit any of them, but he had 2 transfers that won the Heisman, and he had another finalist this year.
That got invited. And they just know that those are the kind of coaches they want to play for. When Jalen Hurts was playing for Brian Dable, you know, who is now the offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills, and you've seen what kind of problems they have now. Offensively, it seems they're very challenged. But when you're being coached by these guys, you know, it does seem like to me that your potential is not tapped correctly, depending on a lot of times who you choose to play for. And so you have to make that decision. And Joe Burrow did, as did Jalen Hurts, as did Baker Mayfield, and they found the right fit. And that's a great story. I don't know how many guys are out there that don't find the right fit, but these are examples of people who used the system properly, did the transfer the way it's supposed to be, didn't just bail because, after 6 weeks they didn't get to take snaps with the ones in practice, so to speak. So I think it's great that it's worked out for these individuals because look at where they are now. These guys are all going to get drafted. I don't know where Jalen Hurts would go necessarily in the draft right now, but I mean, this guy's a winner. So somebody's going to want a winner regardless. And look at, Baker Mayfield's doing commercials right now. Kyler Murray was the top pick. You've got Joe Burrow will be the top pick. I'm predicting this right now of the Cincinnati Bengals.
Well, he's an Ohio kid. It makes sense.
It's a great fit for the Cincinnati Bengals. They need something like that. They need to clean house. They've only won 1 game. They've got a young coach who can't be much older than Taylor. I think it's just amazing to me that this is all fitting in for both parties. I think Joe would love to play for the Cincinnati Bengals, even though I don't know Joe. He may hate the Bengals and be a Browns fan. But the point is that it's there for him, and they used the transfer rules and they executed that to their benefit, and look at what's happened. This guy Burrow didn't play for 3 years, QB. He broke his hand. He didn't even get the job as a backup to J.T. Barrett because Dwayne Haskins beat him out for that in 2017. He breaks his hand. Ed Orgeron and the Louisiana State University folks take a chance on him. He has kind of a ho-hum year. This guy threw for 70-some-odd% completion percentage.
There was talk last year.
It's incredible. Did you see
that Joe Burrow was going to visit here?
Yeah, but 70.
Could you imagine if Joe Burrow would have been our quarterback?
Well, listen, but 71% completion percentage is incredible coming up off a year where he only completed 51% of his passes.
You got to give Joe Brady the coach they hired
and Ensminger too. You know why? Because he didn't let his ego get in the way when Orgeron said, "I want both of you to work together, and I'm bringing in this guy." Because Ensminger is the offensive coordinator. Joe Brady is the guy who orchestrated that offense. However. And I think they all deserve credit, and they're benefiting from the historic season they're having.
He reminds me a lot of Tom Brady, but more athletic.
Joe? Joe's fast. Do you see this guy run?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But his poise in the pocket, his accuracy, his build, he looks like Brady in the pocket. but he can run. So I think he's going to be a tremendous pro.
Good for him.
I had to buy in because all the lead up to the season, at the SEC media day and all that stuff, there was a lot of hoopla about this new offense they were putting in. I had to see it before I believed it because
you saw it against Texas.
No,
that's
I know
what
that
changed your mind.
Yes, but
you and another friend of ours.
I've heard multiple coaches, especially defensive-minded head coaches, like a Jim Harbaugh, we're going to change our system. They never do. He has a little bit this year, but I didn't believe it would happen until I saw it. And, I mean, you go back and look at Joe Brady's season last year. It was just blah.
It was nothing.
It wasn't much to it.
But give Orgeron credit, Coach of the Year, in my opinion, I think, because he allowed he asked these people to work together, Ensminger and Brady, and he had the kid dialed up. And, boy, what a season they've had. They've recruited well. They're going to recruit well. And I think the turning point for them was beating Texas that night. And when it was 3rd and 17 and they were basically in a 4-minute offense, they kept attacking. And they threw those 4 verticals down the field, and before you knew it, they were in the end zone. And all the Texas fans were shocked because they thought they were going to get the ball back to try to win the game, and it never happened. And that changed the season, I think. Well, that led the path for both those teams for that season. Texas going sideways to down, and LSU going straight up with big wins during the conference year season and winning at Alabama, which was their biggest game of the year. So. I don't know. I think it's a great story. Somebody asked me the other day, QB said, well, who are you going to root for? You're going to root for, because I have to root for somebody. You're going to root for Clemson?
You got to buy a hat, whoever wins. You got to call fanatics.com and order a hat.
No, I'm not buying an LSU hat, but I do have a Clemson hat. I don't really know why, but because I was in their bookstore. But the point is that that I'm trying to make is that it's hard for an Alabama or Florida guy to try to root for Clemson. Well, for an Alabama guy, and certainly for LSU, that's just bad. But if they end up playing, which I believe they will, and
you don't want Clemson to have the dynasty.
No, I'm rooting for LSU to keep it in the conference or to bring it back to the conference, right?
Yeah, no doubt. So tomorrow we'll come in. We'll talk Gator basketball.
Are you rooting for LSU or would you root for IPTAY because they are your guys?
I like both programs, but I'm an SEC guy, so I will root for them. Plus, it'd be good to see somebody win it other than the Clemson Tigers.
I mean, after that Heisman, I kind of like Joe now. I thought he was kind of but I like him now. I think he's a great kid, and it's a great story. He's got a great story.
Yep, absolutely. Well, tune in tonight. Watch the Gators.
Basketball.
Providence
What time is that game?
7 o'clock on ESPN2. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Hopefully the Gators can find a way to win.
They better. I mean, I don't know if they better, but they need to.
You and Charlotte George, what was his name?
Yeah.
Carolina
Gator George in Charlotte.
Okay. Y'all are ready to fire Mike White and Roy Williams and everybody else. That's Pod Up for a Tuesday edition. Okay. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.
8 o'clock.